Well, a very good evening to you and many thanks for making time to be with us on this 11th day of September 2024, a day that passengers were stranded at Jomo Kenyatta International Airport following the strike by aviation staff that started at midnight. Now that particular impasse has been solved. Welcome to the program. I am Ian K24. First of all, let's have a look at what's making headlines. Kenya Aviation Workers Union calls off its strike that started today, paralyzing transport at airports across the country over the proposed takeover by Indian firm Adani. Investigations are still ongoing into the fire disaster that destroyed a dormitory at Hillside and Russia School, which led to the deaths of 21 students.
I will veto any bill that does not establish a high standard of accountability, integrity, and anti-corruption measures.
President William Ruto vows not to sign any bill that will water down standards of integrity and accountability in the fight against corruption, referring to the conflict of interest bill.
There will be no teaching or any work activity in the universities with effect from the expiry of the strike notice.
Learning in all 35 public universities set to grind to a halt come Wednesday next week if the government fails to effect the demands by members of the academic staff. Now, you can watch this particular bulletin live across our social media platforms at K24 TV. Our sign language interpreter is Evelyn Wangoe. Transport was paralyzed at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport on Wednesday as aviation workers downed their tools, demanding transparency from the government over the JKIA Adani lease deal. Hundreds of travelers were forced to go back home after their flights were cancelled. Branamwai reports on a day-long strike that left travelers stranded.
Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Long queues were the order of the day. Travelers stranded since last night when workers downed their tools demanding an exit of Adani from Kenya. The late night and early morning strikes saw the arrest of some of the protesters by authorities, adding to the demands of the union before any talks could take place. The union faulted the airport management and government for showing no signs of good faith to resolve the stalemate.
We did issue a strike notice on 12th of last month, that is in the month of August.
Our ministers are arrogant. They don't take telephones. If they are taking telephones, they are taking telephones from businessmen or employers, and they disregard workers' calls. This is very dangerous. This is what has brought all about what is happening here now.
The strike, coming after the lapse of a notice issued by the union, affected hundreds of travelers who were forced to camp at the airport for hours.
I've been here for the last 2 hours. I was supposed to be checking in at around 11 o'clock, but I came in early to take care of this contingency. But I got a message from my ticketer saying that the flight is going to be delayed for another 2 hours. And so I had hoped to be leaving at 2 o'clock.
Tulikuja tukapata kumefungwa, tukapata makarau hapa, so hawakuwa wanataka tuingie ndani, so tukasimama tu tukakaa huku, wengine wakakaa huku, tukangoja tu, so tukangoja tu tuambiwe anything, but hawajatuambia anything.
With no hope in sight, their flights were cancelled, forcing most of them to go back home.
I was supposed to be here by 5 a.m., check-in at 6:55, and then my flight was around, I think, 7:30 or 7:15. So I was supposed to connect with Air Tanzania. So from here to Tanzania, from here to Tanzania, and then I have a layover of around 20 hours. Then from there I can connect to China.
With some of them leaving the country in search of greener pastures, their fate is time-bound, and now it hangs in the balance.
Flight yangu ilikuwa saa 6:45. Tulipofika tukapata hakuna kitu inaendelea. Tukapata watu wamelala. So far hakuna communication yenye tumepata. Tunangoja tu tuone kama mambo itakuwa sawa ndio tuweze kutravel.
Transport paralysis at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport has been experienced for hours after workers downed their tools, sending passengers in a state of confusion, with others having to cancel their flights. Brian Amuai, K24, JKIA, Nairobi.
Thank you very much, Brian Amoy. Now, away from the troubles of passengers at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, other major airports across the country were also hit by the airport workers' strike. Passengers at the busy Moi International Airport in Mombasa were left stranded for the better part of Wednesday, with similar scenes replicated at the Kisumu and the Eldoret International Airports. As Timothy Simo now reports, Kenyans have expressed their anger and frustration over the handling of the strike by the government.
At the Moi International Airport in Mombasa, passengers arrived early enough for their check-in, but it was not business as usual at the coastal city airport. Some passengers lamented scarcity of information about their flights, delayed flights forcing them to reschedule, while others demanded refunds to make other travel arrangements.
Now we're here to suffer. My flight is delayed. I will miss my wife, and she probably divorces me when I come to Kisumu. That's the result of their action.
Nasikia wametudisappoint sana. Like, kuna watu ambao wanafanya vitu za maana. Unaona? Wangefanya efforts at least, hata kama ni kungoja ingekuwa kama 1 hour. Lakini hiyo 3 hours na hata tujapata hata anything like a message.
They want the national government to rethink its decision of leasing JKIA to Adani Group.
Line mingi zime-cancel, so tuko standstill. And we're still here, pole pole, until we get that from our SG atuambie imeisha. If they talk, because sisi ni union members, we have our leader who is the SG most njema, wakati atatuambia hii maneno imeisha, that is when we'll go back to work.
We're fighting to keep our jobs. And number 3, we are fighting to avoid being colonized again, especially by Indians. We can't afford to be colonized again by Indians. Hiyo tumekataa.
At the Kisumu International Airport, workers joined their colleagues in other major airports in solidarity. Passengers who normally use the facility for domestic flights were left stranded, with some opting to use bus transport to reach their destinations.
When your mother is being hurt, also the children have to come out and defend their mother. So we are defending our mother. Our mother is JKIA. Yeah. We eat from JKIA. We don't eat from Kisumu International Airport. So JKIA is our home. And JKIA is our father, is our mother, and is our everything. So in short, we are telling the government, go away with your dirty deals of Adani. Go, go! Go, go!
At the Eldoret International Airport, transport remained grounded, just like in other major airports, and the chorus about their dismay remained the same. We are opposed to Adani takeover, they chanted. Some passengers were forced to return home after long hours of waiting to no avail.
Hapa mwendo wa saa 1 asubuhi nikitarajia kusafiri saa 3:05 Kenya Airways kuelekea Mombasa. Na hadi saa hii simefika saa 5 karibu na dakika 20 hatujapata information yoyote.
On getting the JKIA being managed by foreigners, we are all concerned. We need to get to know what does it mean. 30 years is quite a long time, and we don't even understand what will that mean to us and our children and our country as a whole.
Workers at the Uasin Gishu-based airport also kept off their working stations. Timothy Simo, K24 TV.
Now, the Kenya Aviation Workers Union has called off its strike that started today, paralyzing transport across airports in the country. Now, speaking after a day-long meeting that included the Ministry of Transport, Jomo Kenyatta Airport Management and KOTU, together with the Workers Union, KAWU announced an end to the strike, while still maintaining that they are not in support of the Adani takeover deal. The move will see the resumption of the normalcy in aviation industry across the country, as Martin Opio now reports.
After a day-long meeting to resolve issues raised by the Kenya Aviation's Union, transport at the nation's largest airport is set to resume after the union agreed on a return-to-work formula with the Ministry of Transport late Wednesday evening.
Program ya kurudi kazi, labda kuna wale wanahitajika kuwa kazi saizi, hamko kwa uniform, tunaomba KAA management. Lazima iwafacilitate, kama ni wale wanataka kwenda nyumbani, uende uoge, ukuje kazi. Si ndio sawa sawa? Sababu tumekuwa hapa tangu juzi sisi, hata mimi sijaoga.
The kind of airports we see in developed economies to be able to create a kind of opportunities by attracting more visitors into our country. The challenge we have had in not having to communicate, I think we've had the challenge of communication as a government. And today and over the past few weeks, we have attempted to communicate.
The agreement arrived at by the Ministry of Transport and union leaders has, however, not quelled the discontent among workers.
Hatujesema sisi tumekubali Adani. Haya, tulia. Pili, tutapewa kura ya turufu, veto power, ambayo kalamu yetu itahitajika ndio isonge hatua moja wapi mbele.
Documents have been made available to us, most pertinent documents as requested by the union. We undertake to go through them within 10 days, working days, and flag out areas of our concern which shall immediately be pointed out with a view of jointly engaging in discussion with the government, Kenya Airways, Kenya Airport Authority, after we have flagged out our concerns.
The workers have been given veto powers to halt the deal at any point if their concerns are not addressed.
The parties, that is government, Kenya Airport Authority, shall is mandatory, shall not enter into any final agreement or append their signatures without concurrence with the Kenya Aviation Workers Union.
The government has, however, defended its decision to get into the Adani deal, which they say will upgrade the airport.
We have a PPP Act which allows private investors to seek opportunities to invest. And when this is done, we do negotiate on certain parameters. We negotiate on what you might have come to understand as what would be the return on equity we are going to allow them. We negotiate on the debt equity ratio because ordinarily equity is expensive.
The explanation from children, however, wasn't received well by the workers who heckled him, chanting,
It will include taking the concession agreement to Cabinet. And I want to assure you, Cabinet is here to protect the interests of our Kenyans. Unajua Yeni sawa, mtanisikiza na nitawasikiza pia, hakuna shida.
The Adani question is still a subject of conversation with workers given 10 days to go through the documents they had requested. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Now, time and time again, the government has said there's been an issue with the communication, because when you hear CS saying today and over the past few weeks, we have attempted to communicate. Key term, attempted to communicate. There was a bit of lapse of communication in the way we have carried out the privately initiated investment by Adani in this airport. Now, when you remember that this particular deal, there was no open tender process in this particular deal with the MD, the acting MD of the Kenya Airports Authority, saying they're just trying to save on time is actually shocking. And, you know, apart from that, the majority whip rather in the National Assembly through his Twitter account today said, you want and deserve a modern airport. You do not want to pay taxes. Government of Kenya does not want to add you a burden through further borrowing. PPP is illegal. Get us another investor, then to facelift the airport. We can't be a noisy lot with no solutions. Coming from the majority whip of a government that has spent billions globetrotting is shocking, and the government needs to do better. Now, on that note, we take a brief breather. We'll be back in a moment.